So this weekend it is the Singapore Grand Prix. I am very, very excited, but I wanted to take a chance today to not so much talk about what's going to happen, but what has happened in the past. A little history lesson, a little, walk through the archives of what makes the Singapore Grand Prix what it is today. So you might be thinking, Tom, it's only been around for about 2 minutes, mate. Why are you trying to give me a history lesson? Well, the modern Singapore Grand Prix has only been around since 2008 at the Marina Bay circuit. However, the first time Singapore hosted a Grand Prix was in 1966, shortly after gaining their independence, hence it being called the Singapore Grand Prix. And it was held at the Thomason Road GP circuit. Apparently it was pretty mad, and so much so that by 1973 they had to can it because it was too dangerous. A combination of the cars, obviously back then the cars were very little in terms of protective safety stuff, and also just the track was just way too dangerous. And then of course in 2008 Singapore returned to the calendar with the Marina Bay Street Circuit, which, interesting facts, was both the very first Asian street circuit and also the very, very, very first night circuit, night GP. Oh man, I've just literally noticed that the back of my phone is cracked in the corner. What an absolute joke. And of course, Singapore's success with the night race meant that it transferred over quite nicely to Bahrain and Abu Dhabi. Looking at the Singapore Grand Prix in its current form since 2008, there's only been 4 different winners. You've got Sebastian and you've got Lewis, both 4 victories each. Fernando has won twice, which you can take one of those with a pinch of salt, and I'll explain shortly why. And Nico Rosberg picked up 1 victory there too. So you might be thinking, oh well, if it's a night race, then at least the drivers are nice and cool. They don't have to worry too much about temperatures. Nah, I've been to Singapore before. It is excruciatingly humid all of the time. So even though it's a night race, even though it's raced, where the sun's fully buggered off, it gets up to 60 degrees in the cockpit, which is ridiculous to even think about. And the drivers can lose up to 4 kilos in body weight during a race. Like my laptop, this XPS 15 Dell, it weighs like less than 2 kilos. So it's like 2 of these. And this is a big laptop. 2 of these, like more than 2 of these in body. No wonder there's nothing on F1 drivers. Like they just sweat it all out, man. But even so, that doesn't put off the locals. In last year's race, there were over 250,000 people attending the race, which for a street circuit as well is pretty bloody impressive. And as mentioned before, numerous drivers have been quoted saying that Singapore is one of their favourite tracks. I guess street circuits offer that kind of high stakes, element that France, for one, absolutely does not. There's no margin for error, and I think the drivers seem to kind of enjoy and really respond well to that sense of kind of danger, essentially, which keeps them switched on. Because I feel like with a lot of the race, it's always good, of course, to have a combination of more traditional circuits, but also embracing the alternative approach of street circuits, and I think Singapore's a prime example of how to do it right. I have been to Singapore and I did not go to the Grand Prix. Unfortunately, I think I was a couple of weeks before that was due to be on, but you can still check out the pit buildings, and you can still walk down the pit lane, and you can still check out the kind of first corner bit, which is just circuit, but that's obviously the rest of the circuit is the streets that are used day to day. It's a wicked place to go. Singapore generally is a quality country. I couldn't recommend it more. It's just very humid, as previously mentioned, so bear that in mind. Pack your shorts. So now I'd like to take some time to talk about specific moments over the years at the Singapore Grand Prix which will be remembered. 2008, very, very first race at the Marina Bay circuit. CrashGate. If you don't know what I'm talking about, after this video, not now please, you're going to want to go and read up on this if you haven't heard of it. Involving Fernando Alonso, Nelson Piquet Jr. and the Renault team that they were both racing for. And basically, Nelson crashed, which allowed Alonso to get an undercut on the pit stop / overcut, can't remember, and essentially win the race. It then came out that Nelson was told / decided to crash on purpose, and that led to a big legal thing. Flavio Briatore had to leave, and it was all just a massive mess. It was essentially a fixed result, which Alonso has kept that win, hence why I said earlier that one of those wins that he does have to his name is, not necessarily rightly his. That was some next level F1 drama that hadn't been seen for a long time, and Singapore was where it all went down. Also, that race, something that's often forgotten because of the whole CrashGate thing, is this was back in the days of refueling. So Felipe Massa had his pit stop in his Ferrari. The fuel hose wasn't detached properly, so he drives off. Fuel hose still flying out the side of the car, wipes out particularly one poor sod in his pit crew. It got absolutely mullered. They end up sprinting up, pulling it out, and he gets disqualified anyway, because rightly so. And I think that was one of the catalyst moments towards the FIA deciding to outlaw refueling. So fast forward to 2011, I wanted to talk about this one because it's quite funny. Massa and Hamilton, Massa in the Ferrari, Hamilton in the McLaren at the time, had a little ding dong. Basically in the post press conference, Hamilton's having an interview. Massa comes up behind him quite aggressively, like pulls him and says something like, "Well done, mate," sarcastically, obviously. And then Lewis is like, "Don't touch me." And it's all quite dramatic. Although Lewis looks like a 14-year-old back then. He kind of he matured quite a lot very quickly. But this was back in the days where he was very much the baby-faced assassin. So then in 2016, just because of the kind of animals you get in that part of the world, there was a fat off lizard on the track, which Max Verstappen almost hit. Having been to the British Grand Prix, the worst you're probably going to get on the track is a squirrel or something, and then you got a fat off like Komodo dragon looking thing in Singapore. So now we're getting a bit more recent. 2017, there was a quality incident on the first corner. So you had Kimi in Ferrari, Max in his Red Bull, and Seb in his Ferrari. Three trying to go into one. Didn't fit. Essentially, you had Kimi one side, Max in the middle, Seb on the right. Seb went to squeeze Max, didn't know Kimi was there, ended up being a Ferrari sandwich with a Red Bull centre, which sounds disgusting. In the meantime, Fernando, in his god-awful McLaren at the time, managed to get a quality start around the outside. He gets absolutely clattered by Max, and his race is over. All four of them are out. It was so much more dramatic that it was a night race. There was just something about the sparks and I remember watching that one live and I was like, damn. And then of course we go to last year. Now it wasn't quite as dramatic as 2017. Lewis won in his Mercedes. Lewis also got the all-time lap record in qualifying, a 1:36.015. But someone you wouldn't expect to have the actual, race lap record has it. In a Haas, Kevin Magnussen, a 1:41.905. The biggest bit of drama, it was all surrounded by Sergio Perez. I like Sergio, I think he's alright, but this race was an absolute nightmare for him. It couldn't have really gone worse. Puts his teammate Esteban Ocon into the wall. They didn't get along before that. They certainly didn't after that. And I'm sure with Esteban in the Renault from next season on, I'm sure we'll be seeing a few more battles between the two of them. But yeah, that didn't go down well with him or the team or anyone else really. And then after doing that, he's battling with Sergei Sorokin in the Williams when the Williams wasn't as god-awful as it is at the minute. It's slightly competitive. And then, Sorokin's defending really well. Perez is trying to get past him, defending really well. And then Perez just goes full, Sebastian onto Lewis when he just drove into him. But does it at, race speed and just turns into Sorokin. Which, fortunately, it ended up ruining Sergio's race way more than it did Sergei's, and he f***ed himself basically. So I'm sure that Sergio will be looking to right some wrongs this year at Singapore. But yeah, I think all things considered, it's one of those tracks that always seems to deliver, which can't be said for all of them. So I'm very much looking forward to it. So what do you guys think of Singapore? Let me know in the comments down below. What is your favourite moment from the Singapore Grand Prix, and how do you think it's going to go this year? I'm hoping, you know what, my little left field shout, Alex Albon, podium. I think the Red Bulls are going to perform very well, back at street circuits, back at high downforce. And I've got faith in my boy Alex. I've got faith he'll do well. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please drop a like. It really helps. Obviously I'm starting this channel and I've not done very many videos and I've not got very many subscribers, but I really massively appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch. So thank you. Subscribe if you're new and you want to see more of my stuff, because I do plan on bringing regular F1 content that isn't just the same as everyone else. You know what I mean? I want to do something a little bit different, not just, you know, Lewis won the race, he did really well, but you know what I mean? I want to do a bit more than that. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.